your eyes. So hypnosis has been described as a period, check connection, excuse me, dodgy internet. Hypnosis has been described as a period of extended internal focus. So unlike what you might have seen in the movies or on TV, hypnosis is merely a period of attention looking inwards. So if you have been absorbed in drawing or driving or watching TV, that is hypnosis that you've experienced by a generally accepted kind of definition of what that is. So anything that will draw your attention onto one thing at the exclusion of the external world, that is hypnosis. So what a hypnotherapist generally does is they use language and tones of voice to encourage you to reach that place that's not dissimilar to daydreaming, where you're fully aware of everything, but you can hear what's going on around you, but at the same time, your breathing slows and your heart rate calms. What's so amazing about hypnotherapy is that when you're in that state that we're calling hypnosis, you are able to reach the deeper part of your mind. The mind, there's a few models to describe how the mind works, but one model, oh, hello folks, bad connection. I'm sorry to hear that. The mind, one way to look at the mind is to look at it as the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. If you were to compare the size of both the conscious mind, which is everything that you experience and are aware of, so everything that you hear, see, touch, think, smell, these are all going on in the conscious mind. But the unconscious is the part of the mind that logs everything that you've ever experienced or ever thought. So it's all back there. So yeah, comparatively, if you think of it as if the conscious mind is the size of a 5p piece, then the unconscious mind is the size of a football stadium. So everything that you've ever experienced, good, bad, indifferent, is logged back there in the files of the unconscious mind. Now, so that you can function in your daily life, you don't have access to everything that's in the unconscious mind. There's almost like a gate that goes between all that information and the conscious mind, which allows you to function and interact with the world around you. What's amazing about hypnosis is that by stilling and quietening the conscious mind, you can make contact with that deeper part of the mind, the unconscious. And that's where thinking patterns are built over years and lessons are learned, sometimes erroneously, and they lead to unwanted behaviors manifesting in your conscious mind or in your behavior. So the thing with the unconscious mind is actually the oldest, is an old part of the mind, and it's responsible for survival. And what it likes to do is to simplify things so that you can respond in emergency situations. So it generalizes and it makes lessons out of experiences so that you can respond quickly in future. The problem is that sometimes those lessons or patterns of thinking are put together not quite accurately. And so where generalizations can be made or lessons can be learned in the deeper part of the mind, which mean that you respond consciously in an unhealthy or an unwanted way. So I often give the example to clients that someone who is bitten by a dog as a child, they may learn the lesson in the deeper part of the mind that's responsible for survival, that all dogs equal danger and equal harm. So that person may go through their life and they may, whenever they see a dog, they have an emotional response to flee the scene or to panic because their mind that has learned that lesson from a young age is telling them that danger, 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 when their logical mind would say, well, it's just a little dog in the park or it's on a lead. Logic, when logic and emotions come up against each other, emotion always wins. So that drive, I've heard stories of people that You know, they have a fear of wasps. Maybe they were stung as a child, or they saw someone crying who was stung as a child by a wasp. And so they're in their car and a wasp flies in the window and they drive into oncoming traffic to get away from the wasp. Now, logic dictates that it's a lot more dangerous to drive into oncoming traffic, but that impulse from the deeper part of the mind drives the behavior. Now, that's also true for all unwanted behaviors. So whether it's anxiety or comfort eating or whatever that might be, that can come from lessons that have been learned or emotional drives that come from things that have been learned in the past. So the child that falls and skins his knee and mum gives him an ice cream learned that comfort comes from eating. So yeah, mum was doing her best to comfort the child and probably helped a little bit, but the lesson can be learned and go into later life where it becomes you're sad or you're upset as an adult, and your automatic reaction is to reach for the comfort that you received as a child because a sugary treat is the solution to an emotional problem. And that's true for most adult unwanted behaviors, that something has happened in the past and a lesson has been learned or a pattern of thinking has been learned in the deeper part of the mind, and that drives beyond what logic would dictate is sensible, the behavior. And so what's so amazing about hypnotherapy is because you can have contact with that deeper part of the mind and you can unscramble those unhealthy thinkings of pattern and help people to retrain their mind to be able to not respond in that way, to allow the deeper part of the mind to correct those incorrect patterns of thinking and those assumptions and generalizations that have been made by that part of the mind. Because we can make contact, because hypnosis opens the gate between the conscious and the unconscious, you can then help the person to find a more healthy response to things. Some therapists and some academics believe that life is actually just a series of triggers, that in the same way as maybe you've heard a song on the radio and it reminds you of a night out and you remember the good feeling of being on a night out, or you've got a dress or a pair of jeans in the cupboard that when you see them, they remind you of a day out that you had or an event that you went to. Well, there's lots of triggers that are going on all around you all the time, and some believe literally all the time that your triggers, depending on what your mind has picked up over a lifetime, particularly negative experiences, create triggers so that maybe someone who's been criticized for cooking for a long time, whenever for the rest of their life they go in the kitchen and they reach for the frying pan, they feel sad, they have low self-esteem, because their mind learned a lesson that cooking equals you're no good and things like that. And so the emotional response to the stimulus of cooking equipment, or if you've been told you're a bad driver, maybe when you reach for your keys, you feel not good enough or anxious or nervous. And this extends to social anxiety and, well, all sorts of things that, you know, maybe you've been embarrassed in front of people or made to feel silly, or, you know, something bad has happened where you've been in a social situation. And so the knowledge that you're going to have to be around people has triggered the emotional response from that original time or experiences that you've had in the past. What is so amazing about hypnotherapy and hypnosis is that you can remove those old triggers, that the mind can ditch the sadness and the upset and the unhealthy and inaccurate lessons, and just clear out that old stuff. I often say that when people come to see me, then their behaviors that they don't want in their life are as a result of often the pain that they've been through. But if we can let go of that pain, which is a reasonably simple process, and instead of that pain and those triggers being there, that they no longer act as triggers for an emotional response. So the car keys or the cooking equipment or the social event that's coming up are no longer a trigger for sadness or worry or whatever it might be, the negative response that people are experiencing, you can actually encourage and help the person to train their mind so that life and everything that they experience in their daily life can become a trigger for positivity. So every time you open your eyes in the morning, you suddenly get a wave of gratitude and love or whatever it might be. Every time that you leave your front door or every time you see a certain color, that you get a sudden rush of confidence or happiness or giggliness or so I'm just laughing. I was thinking of a client that I worked with recently that we were discussing the love that she felt for her children. And so I helped her to associate a certain color with the love for her children. And so that whenever she saw that color, and she actually saw that color really regularly, and she knew that she is always being triggered by that feeling of love for your child. And so her daily experience, rather than being negative triggers, whether it's a boss or whether it's, the car or whatever it might be, the overriding triggers that are in her life placed everywhere were all really positive, so that she found that she was just getting spontaneous emotional responses to things that were just happening all around her. Now, what I do with clients is we what we call put in positive triggers, and we choose what would you like to feel more of in your daily life. So confidence and strength and happiness and love and gratitude, these are common things. Now, what I find is that if someone has been going through their life, their daily life, and they're being triggered to feel stressed, to feel sad, to feel worried, to feel lonely, if those things leave, and instead, every time they see the colours, I actually use the snooker colours. Every time you see the colours red, yellow, green, brown, blue, pink, black, or white, you feel love, you feel happiness, you feel confidence. And as long as they can remember what confidence means to them, in the session, we work on remembering what that feeling feels like and how their body responds and what language them being confident looks like and sounds like and how people respond to them. It's really easy to encourage the deeper part of the mind to hold on to these patterns of being triggered or being motivated to just spontaneous love feelings or spontaneous happiness feelings. And it's lovely. And what you find is that it's really difficult to be anxious when you're feeling gratitude for the world and when you're feeling happy, like that day, the funniest joke that your friend ever told you, or these sorts of things. It's really difficult to be negative when you're being triggered to feel confident all the time. So whether it's weight loss or whether it's anxiety or whether it's smoking, if you can dump all the bad stuff that's inside and just let it go, and so the triggers that would used to exist in your life and that they are triggering negative behavior responses, they're gone, and instead you've got can-do feelings, positive feelings, motivated feelings just popping up in you all the time and getting bigger and stronger and stronger and bigger. And that every time you basically do anything in life, you're interacting with the world, there are just constant triggers for happiness and joy and positivity, then it's really almost impossible to maintain those negative feelings and experiences that you've had. Sorry, I'm seeing that there's comments here. Hi, Kerry Brown, that definitely works. I'm glad. And yes, Alan Halpin, unlearn learned behavior. That's exactly correct. Yes, you can unlearn learned behavior and restructure your mindset as you would wish. And an experienced practitioner can help you. I don't do anything for my clients other than open doors that they perhaps haven't seen before, that you could go through your life and bills will arrive, as everyone experiences hardship. So there is bereavement, or there is stress at work, or there are bills come through the door, or there's cars breaking down. Life will throw challenges at you, and life's happiness is entirely dependent on your response to it. Now, what I often do with clients, and like I say, I just show them that they could remember how it is to be grateful for just being alive every second of every day, or really motivated and immovable in their decision making. And with that, I then ask them to reflect on a time in their life when they were stressed, and with this new set of feelings that they are living with all the time, how would that situation have gone had you felt this way? And often they can't even think that there would be any issue with it. I also explore with them that problems, I don't like the word problems, that challenges are an opportunity to test your skills, an opportunity to learn new skills. It's something to get a sense of accomplishment from overcoming. And so if you can change your mindset that there's no such thing as a problem in life, there's only challenges that you get to either overcome through things that you've learned so far, or learn new skills to overcome them. And isn't that what life is about? Like, about learning and growing and learning to overcome things. And so life can be an exciting and challenging experience, and it can also be done with smiles and laughter. And in the case of one of my clients who I think is watching this evening, we talked about Celtic Green, the football team, that she was recalling what it was like to laugh really hard and not be able to stop laughing. And we tied that to the Celtic Green, and she's a massive Celtic fan. So every time I think she looked at her phone, there's Celtic Green, and every time she spent time with her family, there was Celtic Green. And so what she found was that these were the external stimuli that were generating internal responses. And so that meant that she just went through life happy because she was being triggered to be happy all the time. So yeah, the hypnosis is a magical thing that can literally in an hour. I think some practitioners use 3 sessions or 6 sessions for a multitude of reasons. But with me, if we can establish, sometimes I work with clients and we do a counselling session to kind of work out where we are and where we want to be. And then if we can target what needs to change, what do you need to be less of, what do you need to be more of? We don't need to get into the guts of every traumatic experience you've ever been through. We sit in the session and I help you to let go of the things that you need to let go that you've been carrying. And I often compare it to setting down luggage, that you've been carrying every negative experience and the emotional impact of that for your whole life till we start our session. And if you can set down that luggage, if you can forgive for your own sake and your own well-being, those who you need to forgive, the anger that you carry, the sadness and the regret and pain that you carry, if you can let that go and your unconscious mind is now available to join us in that process, if you can let these things go, then there's no more pain, there's no more anguish, and therefore there's no need for the unhealthy behavior that has developed in that person's life, or the unwanted behavior, I should say. And then it's a case of, well, we've taken this away, and if that means there's some space for some other stuff, then what good feelings do you want to carry in your life with you every day? And that's the triggers, or anchors they're sometimes called, that we then put in place. And it's a wonderful, wonderful process. How do I help you feel loneliness in my whole life and children? Well, Rickards, that is a very difficult situation that you've had to live through. I think that maybe you should send me a message after this, and we can perhaps explore what the next steps might be in relation to that. But that is a lot for anyone to deal with. But that's not to say that we couldn't work towards making life feel better. The reality is that life can be very, very difficult. Life can be very, very hard. I think everyone has been through things, stuff in their life. And that's not to understate the gravity of what some people have been through and go through. But in the pursuit of healing, I think that there's not too many better modalities of healing than hypnosis. I think that yes, Stephen, we can arrange that. We'll get in touch, we'll get a session sorted. So yes, hypnosis is a wonderful thing. With regards to stage hypnosis, there's actually a great deal of value in stage hypnosis for a hypnotist to learn from. What you find is that a lot of hypnotherapists that you'll go and see, as I think I just said, they will often use progressive relaxation techniques to kind of use language to sort of slowly, gently relax someone into a state of hypnosis. And a lot of time that does work. I find that it can be a bit hit and miss. It depends on a lot of factors. And so, yeah, I personally have studied stage hypnotists and street hypnotists who use what are called rapid or instant inductions. So rather than talking for 20 minutes using language that's designed to slowly and gently help the person achieve that peaceful, relaxed state of hypnosis, I tend to use a more direct short-cutted version of that, which is allows the person to do a short process. It takes about a minute, about a minute or so. And then they can get deep into hypnosis. There are different depths that you can be into hypnosis, and sort of light state or ultra depth, and there's various other stages. It gets really complicated. But for the purposes of healing, I think that if you can get kind of with the process that I use, you can get into a nice relaxed state, which is beautifully relaxing. I have friends that contact me that just want to be put into that state or assisted into that state, and they just are left to it. They just want left alone, and they choose when they wake up, or they, if their phone rang, they would just take their phone out of their pocket. It's not being locked away or being shut away or being unconscious or anything like that. A lot of my clients I have conversations with, and they have full, sometimes I'll ask a client a question. I say at the beginning of my sessions, I'll speak to you. I might ask you questions. Feel free to ignore me or nod or correct me or say mind your own business, or it doesn't matter. The session is guided by the person and their internal process. I might say, imagine walking along a beach, and they might be thinking, actually, I'm floating through space, and it doesn't make any difference. Some people are visual and some people are audio, and some people are more kinesthetic. So it doesn't matter. The mechanics are really simple. Get someone into a really relaxed state, help them get rid of a lot of their stuff that they don't want to carry with them anymore, and then get some good stuff in, and by which, like I said, I mean, set up positive triggers, positive, anchors. We often address briefly the thing that they've come to the session for. So it might be weight loss, it might be smoking, but you find that if someone is no longer carrying the pain that they carried in their life, and if you find that they feel able to, knock through brick walls, and that they feel confident and relaxed and happy and grateful, that most things that people want to change in their life, they can without much difficulty. And that's after a session, that's after an hour. Sometimes slightly more, sometimes slightly less. The process, I often compare it to a defrag on a computer. I think I'm not very computer literate, but the idea of a defrag would be that there's lots of connections made every time you open a program, every time you do anything on a computer. There's a little link made, essentially. This is maybe oversimplification, and that a defrag kind of separates all those little connections that have been made. And so it kind of clears everything out and allows the program to run more smoothly. That's what the emotional detox part of the session is about. And then, yeah, it's a case of have your goal in mind, although if you're happy and relaxed and grateful for life and positive and motivated and confident, there's very little that you can't accomplish that you would find hugely difficult. So I'll give you an example of one of the triggers, there are anchors that I put in for someone. I worked with a guy that he was a musician and he was terrified of performing in front of people. So good singer, great guitar player, really wanted to do open mic nights and things like that. But quite an anxious person, quite nervous and really socially anxious. So he and I did a session together, and I happened to know about him that he was actually a beast in the gym. He was an absolute monster when it came to training, fittest guy in his gym. And so what we did was we got him to remember how it felt when he was in the gym and the confidence that he had when training and how he felt among the other people in the gym, that he knew he was good. I mean, he's fitter and stronger and, you know, more endurance than everyone else. He trained at a higher intensity than everyone else and he knew it. So all we did was we set up an anchor so that when he actually did this with his fingers, his first finger and thumb together, he had the feelings and the emotions that he felt triggered of those gym feelings. We called them gym feelings. So that when the next day he went to an open mic night in Edinburgh and waiting to go on stage and terrified and wasn't being able to do it, was going to be sick, but then he just pressed his first finger and thumb together, and suddenly he was super confident, happy as Larry, and went on stage. I think he did 2 or 3 open mics that week, completely no issue whatsoever with performing. And so, yeah, it's a really, really powerful thing. As I say, if you feel confident and if you feel happy and if you feel grateful for life and full of love and relaxed, then there's very little in life that will destabilize you too much. And so making change is really, really easy when you get into that place. But yeah, it is a bit of work. There can be some release. I think it's a good thing. People come often if they've got themselves into a situation or they are in a situation that is difficult emotionally, then there is stuff that they've carried with them. And so there is stuff to let out. And so there can be some tears or grimaces, or, you know, and that process can take as long as it takes. And we discussed that the unconscious mind, you can kind of speak to the unconscious mind because it's just part of your mind. And you can sort of suggest that, you know, over the next few hours or days or weeks, that the process can just continue in the background and not cause any interference to the conscious mind, but those old patterns can just continue to just break up and dissipate, and so things that you no longer need anymore as part of your life, they can just go. And I think that most people that I work with, they find, I would say all, can't be all, but most people that I work with have big changes in their life as a result, straight away, that from when they leave. And it continues. In some circumstances, you find that because their environment is quite difficult, that they find that old behaviours do start creeping back, because if the causes of the thinking still maintains, then there will still be a return of old behaviours. But hopefully, if we've built the person up to be positive and enthusiastic and kind of ready to kick butt, then they can approach the challenges of life a little bit differently, and hopefully, manage life a bit better. Excuse me a second. So just to address a couple of the misconceptions. So the swinging watch thing, I think back in the day, hypnosis kind of started 150 years ago. It was called mesmerism before that. And again, it was getting someone to focus on something at the exclusion of other external stimulus. And it tends to bring someone into a inwardly focused state. And that's the swing and watch, was something just to focus the eyes on. So maybe there are some hypnotists and hypnotherapists that use watches these days, but I think it's a bit of a cliche. Clucking like a chicken. What you find is that, I'll give away a secret of stage hypnosis. When you go to a show, there's always going to be susceptibility tests done by the stage hypnotist. That is a test that everyone in the audience does, and there are some very highly suggestible people in the audience. It doesn't make them gullible, it doesn't make them stupid. It can often be highly intelligent, open-minded people that are highly susceptible. I think often the term used is somnambulist, which I think actually comes from sleepwalking, but it's not sleep, but that's the term. That someone that can get into a really deep state of hypnosis and will follow suggestions really easily. And I've worked with people like that, but it doesn't affect how, to work with a client, if they are or aren't like that. Anyone can be hypnotized. If you're able to zone out watching TV, then you're able to be hypnotized because you've been hypnotized and you're probably in hypnosis every day. But on a stage, they do a test on the whole audience, and there might be 5 or 10 people that are really easy to get into hypnosis, really deep, and will follow suggestions, probably because they're open-minded and they're there for a laugh and they're happy to go along with it. They're the people that get dragged on stage. And I think clucking like a chicken is just a really unoriginal way to make people laugh, because you look a bit daft clucking like a chicken. There's no reason that would come up in hypnotherapy, but I know that that's a common thought, that when people, most people, when they say, they come in and they sit down and they say, oh, my sister, my auntie, whoever said, oh, hope it doesn't make you cluck like a chicken. That is where that kind of comes from. So yeah, there are generally, hypnotherapists are quite scathing of stage hypnosis and stuff, because it cheapens the thing. But in actual fact, hypnosis is just a tool to get someone into a very, very relaxed state. And what you do with that is what is therapy, is the hypnotherapy bit of it. So yeah, what is brilliant is, rather than taking 20 minutes or half an hour to get someone into a nice relaxed state so they can make changes, some of the techniques that are used on stage or used in street hypnosis, they're brilliant, because why spend 20 minutes or half an hour getting someone into a really nice, relaxed, deep state when it can be done in 5 seconds? So personally, I think some of the short, sharp, short methods are a bit much for in the therapy room, but that doesn't mean there isn't value in understanding where they come from. I think that might be part of the reason why a lot of hypnotherapists will recommend 3 sessions or 6 sessions, that it tends to be a more teased out process, where suggestion therapy is used, where there is gentle suggestions used in the language of scripts. They often read scripts, and suggestion is made to the unconscious mind that, you don't want to smoke, and smoking is bad, and the sadness of smoking, and it's done over a long extended period of time. That's not how I approach things. I did when I first qualified, because that's kind of how you're taught. But since then, I always say that if I can have someone arrive at my office or my therapy room, and an hour later they leave a different person, how they would choose to be, and I never see them again, then that's great, because I helped them open the doors that they needed to open to live a happier, healthier life. So it need not take 6 sessions. I don't remember the last client I had that lasted more than 1 session. And as I said, there may be people that come back and they, maybe like I say, that maybe you get a client that quits smoking and they're fine for a year, and then Christmas comes and they're away with their family, and there's 30 people in a cottage up north in Scotland, and the stress is too much. And so the environmental factors push them back in the way that they did in the first place, because the problems are still there. So the behavior then gets re-triggered and they come back and they get a top-up session and they're fine and they're okay with that. But generally speaking, most, I would say 99% of my clients, they come with something that they want to change about themselves and they change it and then they go on their merry way and get on with enjoying life. Yeah, so it's I would say that you know, psychoanalysis, and there's a lot of room for talking therapies where you can explore your things, the way that you think and why you think the way that you think. And I think there are different approaches to allowing the contents of the unconscious mind to come to the surface to allow for healing. In my experience, hypnosis shortens that process a lot. And I would say for anyone that's considering exploring hypnosis, I would say that you don't go into a different state of mind that you can't hear anything or can't control yourself or blurt out your biggest secrets. Generally speaking, I don't learn lots and lots of personal things about clients. There's no reason. They know what things they have to let go. I don't have to tell them or ask them or have them relive anything or explore anything. I should mention actually phobias. What you find is that often with phobias, people have, it's again, a phobia is acting as a trigger, a negative trigger for negative feelings. But what you often find is that the development of the phobia hasn't actually come from the thing that they're then scared of. Sometimes it does, but oftentimes it doesn't. So I've worked with a couple of clients recently that had spider phobias, and neither one of them was attacked by a spider. Both suffered trauma or difficult times in their young life, and the feelings that they hadn't expressed or released or fully processed about that experience that they had, they latched onto something that is small and scuttly and lives in the dark and might drop on your head when you're walking through an archway. So it's a naturally unpleasant thing for a lot of people, is the spider. Maybe harshly so, but it's the truth. But what it was that it was actually the emotional response to the event that they lived through that was coming out when they saw a spider. So when we went back to find the first time that they felt the collection of feelings they had when they saw a spider, they found that it had nothing to do with the spider. And with that realization, we're able to let go and process the emotions. So it's exactly the same as all the triggers and all the anchors that I've talked about, that there is a external stimulus, something that triggers one of the senses that has an emotional response. So yes, can you help people with mental health like bipolar, PTSD, and hypnosis? Yes, Law, the pronouncing Law. Yeah, particularly PTSD. Yes, you can let go of any negativity that you have, and then all the presenting behaviors or experiences of someone with PTSD will leave. So the anxiety and sleeplessness and the anger and things, if they can, with some assistance, find the tools to let go of the pain and suffering that was the experience that caused the PTSD, then the PTSD is gone, essentially. With bipolar, I have as a friend, not a client, as a friend that has bipolar, and he lives with it and manages it very well. But what he finds is that each year, as the lights get lighter, the nights get lighter, he struggles to sleep, and that is not very helpful for his bipolar. And so he uses a sleep meditation that, well, self-hypnosis actually, that I taught him, that he can use, and he finds that that helps him a lot. What I would say with personality disorder or bipolar, or I would generally say that if you're carrying less stuff, we'll call it, not to diminish the importance of the things, but if you're carrying anxiety, and if you're carrying stress, and you've been through things in the past, and you have regret, or you have sadness or anger or pain, if you can let these things go, then you can improve your current experience and future experience. So yeah, I think that if you can keep your stress down and your happiness up, I'm aware that with bipolar, happiness up, maybe find something that would be a stabilizing influence on you, so that it's neither up nor down, but it's a pleasant middle ground, that would be something that you can learn. There's a couple of techniques that I could teach you using self-hypnosis that would be brilliant for that. But yeah, feel free to get in touch actually, because we could maybe explore a few different ideas with that. But yeah, I could talk all day and all night about hypnosis, but I'm always happy to answer any questions anyone has, and I'd be delighted if you want to get in touch and ask any questions, or would like to book a session, or you have some changes you want to make, or you're looking to kick butt in the gym and not be lethargic and lazy like we all can be. And yeah, so if there is something that you would like to change, and I find that when people are desperate to change something about themselves and they're ready to change, it comes across in how they speak to me and approach me, and these people make big changes very quickly, and don't look back, generally speaking. But I don't see clients for smoking, for example. I would speak to any client before supporting them with quitting smoking, and if I felt that they were not ready to quit, I wouldn't take their money and I wouldn't see them for the session. And that has been the case with people that I've spoken to, that if you have been dragged there by your wife because you stink, or it's not good for you, or you're used to spending all the family's money, I can talk till the cows come home about healing and this and that and the other thing. If someone does not want to change a behavior, I can't make them. I don't make any clients do anything, make them say anything, feel anything. It's, I like to think, I sort of joke that, was it a Shilpa on the Himalayas and stuff? I was saying this to a client actually recently about weight loss. I'll stand at the bottom of the mountain and say, up there. Now they have to climb up the mountain, but maybe they didn't know how to get to the first step. And so that's my job. It's to point you in the right direction. Maybe you haven't seen that as a possibility, or being able to find the way to feel a way or to let something go. And so I have studied the tools to help you to do that, but the work is done by the client. The change is done by the client. So it's a pleasure to help people, but it's helping people to help themselves. And sometimes it's to a point where people are stuck and they can't find the solution. They can't find the door to go through. They just have a blind spot for it. And so I think that a therapist's job is often not to tell you what way to go. It's to remind you that there are a lot of options and help you to navigate your path for yourself, not decide what your path should be. And yeah, of course, get in touch, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I should also mention that I teach hypnosis. Yeah, I was going to get into past life regression there, but that's too big a subject for the last 10 minutes. Yeah, I teach hypnosis at practitioner level. So or I also teach kind of informally, that you wouldn't be registered to practice. There is a course for that as well. But if you wanted to learn the skills and to develop your understanding of how humans behave and how to achieve change, or to help people to achieve change, get in touch and we could sort something out like that. There could be opportunity when the weather is better for weekends for people to come and learn and get some practical training in on rapid inductions and instant inductions. And yeah, past life regression, maybe have to do an episode on that soon, because it's quite an interesting subject. And I've got a group for doing a case study on past life regression, but it's yeah, that's another story for another day. But yeah, if you want to make changes, if you want to get out of the rut, if you're in a rut, if you feel stuck, then please get in touch and we will talk. We can decide what the best way forward is, and if I think I can help you, I will say so. And if I think that your energy would be better spent elsewhere, doing something differently, I would say so. I am not interested in taking anyone's money or wasting anyone's time who isn't ready to change. It's to help you to make the changes that you want to make. It's not to decide how you have to change and do it to you. It's yeah, so please feel free to get in touch. And yeah, this video will be up for the next week or so. It'll just stay up, but you can put any comments or questions that you may have in here, or you can get in touch, email, Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever. And I'd be happy to discuss anything further with you that you would like to discuss. But for tonight, I will say cheerio, and I hope you're all well, and I shall speak to you all soon. Bye.